Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And I hope you're hearing me okay because I'm trying a new headset, but apparently it's like 3/4 working, I think. Just let me know. Let me know if you guys are hearing me. In the meantime, before we get to that, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, your superstore this winter, to get everything you need from salt, sand, pellet, mag, ice pellets and flakes, de-icer, and this is what Omni looks like on the outside at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. On Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area and beyond. And they've got everything you need. Snow blowers, 24-inch blade, 30-inch blade, very impressive. And we've got spreaders, shovels. You see all the snow melt products behind you. And of course, tons and tons of rock salt. So head over to Omni. Again, 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. For the best prices in town, OmniTrueValue.com.
TrueValue.com.
Okay, I got a new headset. Yes. I got the same thing Joe Rayo has, but I'm supposed to be hearing him in the speakers. And oh, that did something. But I'm not. So I haven't figured that part of the game out yet. So hopefully you won't get Joe Rayo feedback off my mic.
Well, you know, Joe, you're right. I got this this headset about a year ago, and I had my problems with it initially for some days. I couldn't figure it out. I almost ended up throwing the darn thing out the window. Thankfully, the executive producer coaxed me into holding on to it and explaining to me that I was overactive and get too upset too rapidly. So eventually, everything calmed down and able to figure this out. And I'm sure the same thing will happen for you. That you'll figure out what's going on.
I get to figure it out. I don't know. These are the instructions that it comes with, and I don't know if you can see, but the print is for people who have eyes like Superman. I mean, I'm 63 years old, you know, with 20/40 vision here with my glasses. I'm supposed to be able to read this. My God, it's worse than what's on. It's worse than what's on. You know, when you get those, you buy a bottle of allergy medicine or something, or Motrin or Tylenol. You keep bad enough you can't open those bottles. You can't even hear anything. So let's get right to it because everybody's talking about this, and I want to settle this right off the bat. I'm going to go to WPC with their snowfall forecast probabilities. Okay, and I want everybody to know that unless maybe they fixed it, I don't know, but there's a computer glitch, and the computer glitch. Okay, they did fix it. All right, good. All right, because that was scandalous what they had. So apparently, what happened was, so if you read the discussion from WPC, the discussion is totally makes sense. It talks about where the snow is going to fall and isn't going to fall, and rest assured, it's not going to fall. Actually, they haven't fixed it. If I'm correct here, no, they really haven't fixed it. Let's see. What did I have? Oh, I have the 72-hour probability of at least 2, so that's fine. So they had huge probability numbers from a storm from some other time, and it was a storm that must have come up the East Coast. So it was, what they showed was just utterly ridiculous. So I think this is the fixed map. I'm going to do a little, just switch this around a little bit. Let's go to 48-hour. And that kind of makes sense. Let's go to the 48-hour one, probability of at least 2. Yeah, see, I don't know. Some of these maps don't match up right, but so let me go back one more. Friday. This is Thursday to Saturday. This is Saturday to Friday.
Joe,
Yeah,
Joe, I'm not seeing any maps.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just as well because I'm not even sure. Let me put the maps up. Um, I'm not sure whether these maps were repaired or not, but apparently the maps from some wrong date when there must have been an East Coast snowstorm that went all the way up to God's country, up in New England, and all the way down through the Mid-Atlantic states. I don't know. It looked like the blizzard of the blizzard of '96. It's wrong. Okay, the maps are wrong. The discussion is right, and that's that. So everybody's getting all excited over this. And see, now I don't know what to make of this one. This map kind of looks right to me. This is the probability of at least 2 that goes for 48 hours from Thursday through Saturday. So they have the blue is 40 to 50. So they've got 40 to 50% probability of at least 2 touching the south shore of Western Long Island to New York City. And they have a higher probability going down from central New Jersey down into Virginia and into southeastern Virginia in particular. That sort of makes sense to me. So I guess that's correct. But they're, like I said, they're in the process of kind of fixing these things. So Joe, I want to bring up a couple of things here on the. I'm going to start with the radar, and I don't know about you, but I'm looking at this radar tonight, and I'm thinking. That's not too shabby looking a radar that's showing up with convective precip moving into southern West Virginia. There's moderate to heavy rain all the way down into central Tennessee, and we even have severe weather going on tonight over parts of the Gulf states here. And again, this is a point now with what we're dealing with tomorrow with this Arctic front and a little wave that's going to be moving along on it, that I think it's going to be extremely important to watch the radar and the observations. This looks a little bit more robust than what some of the models were showing. I think the key is going to be how much of that survives when it tries to move over the mountains. Some of it may dry up, some of it won't. So that may ultimately be key in what happens tomorrow.
Well, first of all, I think the important thing to note is that we are going to start off with rain. I'm thinking that the rain is going to be moving in here in the Hudson Valley. With the Arctic front is probably going to move across the region between 3 and 5 in the morning. And again, during that time frame, light rain is probably going to begin to fall. And then quickly, the rain is going to mix with those big, wet, slushy snowflakes. Now, up until daybreak, Joe, and I looked, what I looked at? I looked at the 3 kilometer NAM, which tends to be, of all the models, I think the coldest of the batch.
All right, let me bring that up on the screen, and go ahead. I'm sorry, I just wanted to bring it up on the screen.
I used the 12Z 3 kilometer NAM, and that suggests that the 32-degree line is not going to be arriving in the immediate New York area until around 12Z, until around 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So what that tells me is, considering number one, that we're going to have rain initially, and then we're going to have wet, slushy snow, I don't really see, even with the passage of the front, any kind of accumulation occurring, at least on paved surfaces, and even maybe unpaved surfaces until about 6 or 7 a.m. But after 7 o'clock, as that cold air continues to funnel in, I tell you true that the high temperature for tomorrow is probably going to be recorded. Well, the high temperature will be just after midnight tonight, whatever it may be, upper 30s or near 40 or whatever. But when we get to tomorrow morning, probably hovering right around or within a degree or two of 31 or 32, and then holding there and maybe slowly but surely dropping through the course of the morning. And so what I could see is that we could begin to see snow accumulations or snow piling up quickly between, let's say, 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. or noontime. And some of that snow, again, especially on non-paved surfaces like wooden decks, tree limbs, grass, you could see more than an inch or two, especially in places like Long Island or maybe down into the Jersey Shore, And places to the north and west may not see as much, only because I think that the precipitation will be cutting off quicker as you go to the north and west. But this is a problem. You know, you talk about omni true value and all the great stuff that they have to offer to you to preclude any icy situations or slippery conditions. But the problem is that a lot of these municipalities, a lot of these cities and towns and communities, when they see that it's going to rain, they don't bother putting any stuff on the road because they say, well, that stuff is just going to get washed away. And that may very well be the case. And that's going to make tomorrow morning's commute tricky in some areas because we're going to be dealing with a situation where it's going to be getting colder. The snow is going to start to accumulate, maybe on even some secondary roadways, and there are going to be some slick spots, and people are going to start sliding during the course of the morning commute tomorrow, especially so since, again, those roads haven't been treated to any proper degree. What do you think?
No, I have to tell you, I'm pretty much in agreement with you on this, and I pulled up. You know, if you go on the local weather services website, when you go on one of the local pages, you can pull up a graph of how the digital forecast that they're doing, and look at the temperatures hour by hour. Now I'm going to add two asterisks to this. Okay. One is that in a situation like this, a lot of times, because we're dealing with an Arctic front, the air behind this front is pretty cold. Okay, it's actually very cold because we're going to go down into the low teens and single digits. I've got ice slips graphs up here as an example. I have a couple of others, and I'll bring them up in a second. But they go down to 13 by Friday morning, the low, and places north and west of the coast are going to see temperatures maybe down even in the single digits. I think that you could, that they've got ice slip by 8 a.m. at 32. By 11 a.m. they have it at 30. 2 p.m. is 31. So you figure by 2 o'clock it's over with. But those temperatures could wind up being a degree or two lower, which will make it problematic. And the other footnote is that could make it more problematic is WPC in their discussion mentions this, that they thought that for a few hours anyway, that we could see maybe moderate snow break out like right along the I-95 corridor. And if it starts snowing where it's coming down at an inch an hour, you could actually knock those temperatures down to say 29 or 8. So I'm leaning toward the idea that this, if the precip holds together and if it falls hard enough, and those are two big ifs, by the way, that you could wind up seeing this could wind up seeing it accumulate on roadways a little faster than you think. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to wind up with a few inches. There'll probably be somebody, the GFS is actually hinting, and that's why I put the poll up on tonight about which city's going to wind up with more snow. In a case like this, you and I both know somebody's going to wind up with, you're going to wind up with a few places that are going to have what we could probably call slightly silly amounts, like maybe 4 or 4.5, and that'll probably compensate for those places. That'll probably compensate for those places that have, a coating to an inch. So they're thinking, and I think this kind of makes sense, since the snow zone this year is down in, say, southern New Jersey, and down into Delaware and the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area, maybe extending up to near Philadelphia and Trenton. That's kind of where, if you wanted to pick a jackpot zone and you wanted to go with just over the fact of where it's been snowing this month so far, that's probably the spot you'd want to pick. But who knows? It could wind up being anywhere. I've seen instances where you think it's going to be down to the south and it winds up being over Long Island and Connecticut, and then vice versa, or the Hudson Valley or wherever it is. But just beware that if all of this pans out in terms of the precip, somebody's going to wind up with something silly. I have White Plains for you. I brought up White Plains, and I think White Plains is also a pretty good indicator to use for, say, the North Shore of Long Island, particularly northern Nassau, northwest Suffolk, where cold air just loves to come in there faster. But 5 a.m. White Plains temperature's 34. By 8 a.m. it's 30, and by 11 a.m. Joe 28. Okay, so if it's still snowing up just north and west of the coast, those temperatures are certainly going to be supportive of snow sticking. And then the other thing is, I'll bring up one more, and that's Caldwell, because I think Caldwell's probably a good indicator of that. Oh, wrong one. Hold on a second. I got to remember where I saved it. Control O. By the way, Joe is monitoring the chat board tonight and doing it quite well. So he will, share your thoughts, and he will share them, he will share them with all of us. And if there are any problems, you'll let us know too, I'm sure, on the chat board. Here's Caldwell in New Jersey. Same thing here, Joe. 32 at 8 a.m., 30 at 11 a.m., and 2 p.m. When the snow's done, down to 30, and by Friday morning, a low of 10. So this is cold air that's coming in. So I think we have to be careful tomorrow morning in terms of how this all plays out. Obviously we got to have to pay very close attention to what's going on the radar. And I'm looking at this tonight, and I'm looking at what the models are showing. And it looks like the radar is a bit more, slightly more robust than what the models are telling us.
Yeah, and in fact, in the talk that I just gave for your old stomping grounds, Joe, the Middle Country Library in Long Island, Center Reach, I finished the talk by saying that in my illustrious career as a TV weather forecaster, that I often thought that my accuracy, my degree of accuracy, is something like 88, 89%, and that there were about 11 or 12% of the time when I was just flat out wrong. And I said, I never heard anybody say, congratulations, you really hit that forecast. More often than not, you only hear from people when you blow a forecast. And when, for example, I would tell people that, you get about maybe a little coating of snow tomorrow morning, and I'd look out the window the next morning, and I'd see 4 inches of new snow on the ground. I immediately would hear the voice of the late, great Jim Neighbors, better known to many of you as Gomer Pyle, saying, I hear this in the back of my mind, surprise, 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 surprise. Okay. And Rich Von Olen, who is still over at News 12, he and I would used to say, I said, well, I guess I was Gomer Piled last night, or we had a Gomer Pile, or sometimes when we have a setup like what we're looking at right now for tomorrow morning, Joe, I'd get an email from Rich, and he would say, what do you think about the probability of a Gomer Pile? This definitely looks like a Gomer Pile tomorrow morning for somebody. I agree with you fully. And,
here's the HRRR.
And you're right about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I agree with you that dynamics. We get and the NAM had an area right over the Hudson Valley at about 5 or 6 a.m. of a darker shade of blue, which I guess indicates more like light to moderate snow. And I said, look at that. And I'm envisioning in my mind that like at 6 o'clock in the morning, if it does fully change over to snow, that we'll be looking at those big fat white slushy flakes coming down at a very hard interval, making for tough visibility. I don't know how much of that would actually be accumulating on the roadways, but you're right. If we do get enough dynamics involved, the temperature will drop to a few degrees below freezing, and then you'd start seeing that accumulation even again on paved surfaces.
Yeah, the HRRR to me matches up with the radar better than any of the short-term models that I looked at, and we'll take you through what it's doing. So there, as you said, Joe, this is at about 3 a.m., 2 or 3 a.m. You've got rain in the Hudson Valley there, and you start to see a little bit of blue. But within 2 hours, it's all snow. It's very quickly changes to all snow, almost right down to about the city is where the rain snow line is. This is at 4 a.m. Here's 5 a.m. And then at 6 a.m., it's snowing on Long Island. It's snowing everywhere, and it's actually snowing on the HRRR pretty far north and west, up your way north of Poughkeepsie. And then, of course, as we go through the morning, there's this solid area, northeast, southwest of snow that just slowly moves on through. This is at 10 a.m. You can see where the back edge is, 11 a.m., noon, 1 o'clock, just getting ready to get out of Long Island, and by 2 o'clock it's gone. Meanwhile, you're seeing it also end in southern New Jersey, but you also see snow. If you look down in the Washington, D.C. Bowl, if you want to focus on the jackpot zone to the south, they go to snow also at around 6 a.m. It's a very narrow band of rain there. That's why I'm talking with that cold air coming in so quick. But they stay snow there, right through from 6 a.m. also till about noon or 1 o'clock. So if they get a little more precip further to south and west, maybe that's where the jackpot zone is. I don't know. In terms of total precip, which is I think the first thing we should look at, I think it's better than looking at the snow map. I want to just kind of look at what the total precip is. And I'm looking at this for the first time just to see what kind of amounts it generates. Come on, maps, load for me. So this is at 10, 11, 12. So, I mean, it looks like it's about between 3 and 4/10 of liquid over Long Island up to about you. And then you see that streak, what looks like about 3 or 4/10 of liquid, central New Jersey, down on the New Jersey-Pennsylvania state line into Delaware, and then further south into the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So, again, picking a jackpot zone is like basically it's like picking lottery numbers and trying to win the lottery. It's a fool's errand most of the time, and you're going to bust in a forecast somewhere. So that's the one place if it winds up that someone does get a surprise out of this.
Indeed. Now, somebody on Facebook said, "Oh, the temperatures are going to collapse or the temperatures are going to crash," and to that I say, no, not necessarily. If they were to collapse, you would have both the surface winds and the upper level winds coming out of a north or northwesterly direction, shifting into that direction immediately behind the front. But behind this front, and actually for some hours afterwards, the upper level winds are more west-southwest.
Which is why we're getting the snow in the first place.
Correct. But a west-southwesterly wind doesn't necessarily mean, in other words, what he was alluding to was we were going to see kind of like a flash freeze, and that is definitely not going to be happening. Again, what's going to happen is the temperatures will drop to or right around freezing, and then from tomorrow morning at daybreak through the rest of the day, either slowly staying steady or slowly going down. I noticed on that graph, for example, that you showed of White Plains, it drops to 28, and then like at 2 o'clock, it goes back up a degree to 29. So that's what I'm saying is it's going to be colder, much colder, obviously, tomorrow as opposed to today, but it's not going to be one of those cases where, 1 hour it's 42, next hour it's 31, and then 2 hours later it's down in the low 20s or upper teens. It's not going to be that way tomorrow. It will be colder, but it simply is not going to be that way.
Right. My problem with the NAM tonight is if you look at the NAM at 9 o'clock tonight, and you see what it has for the radar, and you look at the radar itself, again, I think the NAM may be underdoing this precip, and it might be the reason why, as we run along, it's not as impressive as it's far less impressive than the HRRR in terms of the snow. It actually sets it up a little bit further to the south. It would suggest that you would get cut off a lot earlier in terms of the precip. After 7 a.m. you actually on the NAM you've got nothing. It's all down near the coast, and Long Island, New Jersey, North Jersey's out of it. But I would just go back and say that if you look at this and you look at what's on the radar, it's precipitating well north and west of where the NAM is showing. So it's missing something here. I think the HRRR's got a bit of a better handle on this, at least right now. Now maybe the NAM is going to be right in the long run when we get into tomorrow morning. If that precip winds up drying up some, when it tries to get over the mountains. The GFS is also fairly robust going into tonight. It kind of matches up okay with the radar, and it's got this area of snow that it goes that moves on through. We only see every 6 hours, so it's kind of problematic here. We don't know what the radar looks like in between. I'm assuming that it blossoms up a little bit, and then you see the whole area just kind of move out to the east. You know what? At the end of the day, it is what it is, which is, basically an Arctic front with a little bit of a wave on it. And you get that wave to just sort of do a little bit of a kink, and you get some precip, and then it's done.
And you know what? We could very well, we may see tomorrow evening, Joe, snow amounts in some places as much as 4 or 5 inches. But so far as the average Joe is concerned, and we two of us, you and I, are not average Joes. We're
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of Joes we are, but so far as so far as it's concerned, if all of this snow ends up accumulating on the top of a car or on grassy surfaces, and the main drags remain relatively clear with a bare minimum of accidents or slowdowns, the average person will just say, it snowed. This is the kind of snow I like. It's not sticking and not, impeding me from getting to work or getting to school or whatever. But if we get like 4 or 5 inches on some roadways, I don't see that happening. But if that happens, it's going to be a lot of people screaming come tomorrow night.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
And then, of course, after this, so that we can just kind of get this out of the way, after this goes by on the GFS and on every model that I looked at, this ocean low that is going to develop on the same front is going out. There's no question about it. It's not even close. And the weather this weekend is going to be pretty much a decent weekend, although it's going to be very cold Friday and Saturday and probably into Sunday morning. And then we'll see temperatures bounce a little bit during the day on Sunday.
Yes, of the 2 weekend days, it looks like Sunday will be the net. I here in the Hudson Valley, it's conceivable that if we don't hit 32 on Sunday, that we could, starting tomorrow, we could end up staying sub-freezing right on through next Wednesday. That's the honest to goodness truth. Yeah, I hope everybody out there enjoyed. I hope everybody out there enjoyed today. I hope that whatever ice or snow you still had to get rid of, you took advantage of today, because after today, that's it for a while. We're back in the icebox.
Yes. By the way, on the National Watches and Warnings map, we have some rather odd things going on. So I think I want to point them out. First of all, we have winter weather advisories up for Long Island, New York City, northern New Jersey, except the northwest corner, and also southeastern New Jersey, the coastal counties of New Jersey, not in the advisory zone. Southeastern and south central Pennsylvania. Delaware's out of it, but we do have Maryland in there, most of Maryland, and into Northeast Virginia. So basically, it goes from Washington to Baltimore to Philadelphia to New York City is kind of the line where the advisories are. We also have advisories up for the entire state of Kentucky and southwestern West Virginia. But in between that, there are no advisories up. And that, I think, reflects the fact that, how much of that precip is going to hit the mountains and then kind of dry up a little bit. That's the big question. We have winter storm watches up for southeastern Virginia, central and eastern North Carolina, and eastern South Carolina, because if the second wave forms and it's close enough to the coast, they're going to wind up potentially with some snow and ice to deal with. Although if it's further offshore, this may not play out. We'll have to see. I think they'll get something, but I'm not sure whether it's going to meet. Well, down there, the criteria for winter storm warnings is a little lower. It's much lower than it is up here. So we'll have to see how that goes. Meanwhile, take a look down in Louisiana and into southern Texas and South Texas. We have winter weather advisories that are up in the counties surrounding New Orleans, but not New Orleans itself. Southern Mississippi. And also, west of Lake Pontchartrain. Then, at the same time tonight, we have a severe thunderstorm watch that's winding down in western Louisiana and in southeast Texas. And then take a jump and go to South Texas, and this is because of ice accretion. They've got winter storm warnings up for South Texas, including San Antonio and Corpus Christi, almost but not quite down to Brownsville, with winter weather advisories up to the northwest of that, where there might be a little bit of snow. So, very odd situation in terms of these pockets. Oh, and let's not forget the advisories that are up in northern Arkansas as well. So we got these pockets of winter weather advisories. It also kind of goes to show you that you've got a stalled front. If you wanted to just kind of lay a surface on here, you've got your weather front coming through the east that's stalled down into the Gulf of Mexico. You got a little low in the western Gulf, and then all this cold air that's coming down. It's coming down and going down into Texas, and then we've got cold air that's also coming down into the eastern United States on northerly winds. So it's spreading east and going south. So you've got all this odd nonsense happening with respect to these warnings. And we also have some winter weather advisories up in the eastern quarter of Colorado, up in northern Idaho and northwestern Montana, northeastern Washington. And that's about it. Most of the weather out in the western part of the United States is quiet. So that this system today might be the last thing we have to talk about for a little while, the way it looks anyway.
Well, three things. Number one, when you were talking about the areas around New Orleans, you said the counties around New Orleans.
How about the parishes? Shame on me.
Parishes.
Shame on me. I should, of all people, I should know better. I worked there for 3 years. So my mistake. I'm sorry. I lived in New Orleans for 3 years. I had a mental moment here where, you don't talk about winter weather advisories in Southeast Louisiana very open. So my apologies to my Louisiana friends. Yes, it's parishes. I lived in Jefferson Parish when I lived down south. So thank you for bringing that up and correcting me.
The private company I used to work for, we were trying to get a big radio station in New Orleans, and they said, "You really know the weather down here? You know, we're up in New York." And I said, "We sure do." And I assigned one. We had a gal who had a voice, Joe, that we had up here in New York. Those of you who used to listen to WLTW, you may remember a gal who used to be on that station for a good number of years, Valerie Smaldone. I mean, she had an unbelievable voice. So we had a voice somewhat similar to that. I told her, read the script, do the forecast as best you can, make it sound really good. And she goes on, they record her, and I'm figuring we've got this station. There's no question. And they came back like an hour later and said, "I thought you said you knew everything about New Orleans weather." I said, "We do." I said, and they played the tape, and she said, "And there's a severe thunderstorm for the following counties," and she stopped the tape. I said, "Oh God, oh no." Yeah. Parishes, and we lost that account because
the drain. And the other mistake would have been if she said New Orleans, because it's not New Orleans, it's New Orleans. But yes, circle the drain. You lost that one. Oh,
remember the Bugs Bunny with the Bugs Bunny episode 8-Ball Bunny with the penguin, where he drops the penguin off, and the ship is pulling away, and he's raising a toast and saying, "Ah, this New Orleans."
Yes.
I think I'm going to stay for the Mardi Gras.
The Mardi Gras. Yeah, correct. Yeah. Definitely the Mardi Gras.
Draggy Stern hitting super chats, and now you just answered the question. When would you say the next good shot for something good is around here? Well, after tomorrow, it may be a while.
I'm going to take a contrary position. Okay, I'm going to take a contrary position. If you think back, when was it? Was it last night or 2 nights ago when we had the 950 low in Northern Virginia, heading up, into central PA and upstate New York, and everybody got bent out of shape over that, and of course it was gone in the very next run. So when I looked at the GFS at the 18Z GFS, and I saw that for the most part it's got it doesn't quite have nothing, but it really doesn't have much going on over the next 7 to 10 days, I think. I'll look at it again. But when I saw the lack of activity, I said, that's what I want to see. I want to see the long range put 16 days where it has got no precip whatsoever, because that it's extremely rare for us to go that long without seeing anything. So the fact that the GFS doesn't have anything huge is a big plus. in my book. So I would expect that to be different as we move along. By the way, the Arctic front on the 0Z map is looks like it's just about past Syracuse, but not quite there, or but yeah, probably past Syracuse. We've got temperatures, with this cold high. I mean, this is a cold high. You got double-digit below zero readings at 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight across all of Minnesota and the Dakotas. Single digits across Wisconsin, teens and low 20s back through Indiana and Illinois. I mean, this is a really, solid push of cold air. Plus, the isobars are coming straight from the north. And as you pointed out, you've got this west-southwest flow aloft that is, we're getting this overrunning that's occurring behind the front as these northerly winds kick in. So you look up, temperatures are in the teens and 20s down in southeastern Canada at the moment, but that's going to get colder because just to the west, it's all below zero. So that cold air is going to come in. This is not one of those instances where the front comes through and you just, you're sitting there for hours and hours and watching the temperature go, 43, 42, 41. This is going to come in.
Yeah.
It's going to get in there by 5 or 6 a.m. in terms of the 32-degree line, and then it's all going to be about intensity and I mean, basically all going to be about intensity in terms of whether those temperatures edge down to 20, 29 or 28. If we get into a little band of somebody gets into a band of moderate snow, those areas are going to see their temperatures fall under 30.
Well, the thing is that with that rain in advance of the snow, I mean, that'll wet down the pavement, and so it's always tough for snow to accumulate on wet roadways. It takes some time there. But then on the other hand, if the temperatures drop to below freezing, some of that wetness may translate into patches of ice, which is the last thing that you want to see, especially during the morning commute. So this is going to be a problematic. Now, the chairman is asking, Joe's, does this event tomorrow remind you at all of the evening rush hour event back on November 15th, 2018, when I was stuck on I-95 for 4 hours? Remember, in that case, we had a cold high sitting over the Northeast, and we had a storm running right into that cold high up from the south. This is not that type of scenario. This is an Arctic front. So it's a different type of scenario, but still, it does have embedded in it for tomorrow morning some openings for some very tricky and very surprising conditions. And it's something that we'll have to just, again, as we talked about a while back, it's time. It'll be time after midnight and toward daybreak tomorrow morning for not forecasting, but nowcasting and seeing where the radar is showing, seeing where the temperatures are standing. It's going to be a very interesting morning tomorrow for the morning Thursday morning commute. And I'm hoping that we don't see anything major or really problematic, because like I said, usually they and when I say they, I'm talking about traffic departments and municipalities or whatever, knowing that it's going to rain first, they usually don't treat the roads. They don't usually do stuff like that in advance, because they say, well, it's just going to go washed away. So it's going to be an interesting morning tomorrow, Joe. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Agreed. So I'm going to run through let's run through the GFS and take a look at after tomorrow. Of course, you get this front that goes through. One wave goes out. Here we are Friday morning. Second wave develops well to the east of South Carolina, North Carolina. And by the way, one thing I will tell you is that if you're looking for a situation where something is going to back up to the northwest at the last minute, if the NAM is showing something that's actually, instead of backing up to the northwest, instead it's showing it being more to the southeast, that's kind of telling you that it ain't going to happen. And when we'll bring the NAM up again later when we get a little deeper into it, but that's what the NAM did on the 18Z run. It was actually more southeast than it was at 12Z or 6Z. So even the NAM is telling you that a back northwestward just is not going to happen here. That wave Friday night into Saturday morning, and by the way, if you look at the GFS, except right along the immediate coast of the Carolinas, it's not doing very much with respect to, I mean, there's some snow and ice there, but it's not overly impressive because the low is so far out. and then you got another little low. Remember the Sunday low that was supposed to come up the coast? Well, guess what? It moves over off the Florida coast on the GFS and runs almost straight east-northeast, and then goes, kind of reforms east of North Carolina, and then goes out. So all the upper features are further east. They're a lot flatter. They go away. It's gone. We've got a little, this cold air, it's relatively cold into Tuesday, kind of moderates a little bit. And then we get some kind of frontal passage here on Tuesday. So it almost implies that it might briefly warm up Tuesday with a cold front going by. And then more cold air comes in for Wednesday, Thursday, and then another wave goes out well to the south late next week, if this is correct. And then as we move along, here it is. We're at hour 240. There's nothing, okay? Remember, there's supposed to be, on the weekend of the 29th and 30th, there was supposed to be a 950 low running up the east side of the Appalachians and burying Western PA, West Virginia with 30 to 40 inch snows. Where is it? And, out that goes. And then after that, it gets the pattern to me gets a little muddled, and I'll explain. And that includes, by the way, here's your, this is the first time this winter we've seen it, Joe, on the 384 hour. There's a 2,000 mile long warm front. Running from Boston to New York City, down through southern Illinois, and then down into the Gulf states. So we know it's not going to look like this. But
ice storm warning for Shreveport.
Right. So again, I'll just go back to what I said earlier, which was the fact that the GFS is showing very little or nothing over the next 16 days, to me, is bullish. Okay. So let's look at the upper air and see what's going on. And what you have, you've got Canada dumping down cold air from time to time. And you can see it here, for example. This is Monday the 24th. You got this deep trough in the east. Notice, by the way, after what we were looking at last week, where it looked like it was going to overwhelm the entire eastern two-thirds of the U.S. all at once, instead it's coming down more in pieces. And that sort of changed with regards to what even the long-range folks were talking about over at CPC. And we still have the troughing in the east, but then on this run anyway, there are a couple of things that I'm going to point out at the end of the run that if you're looking at this, you're starting to probably, throw up a little bit, because if you're a snow lover, because there's the dreaded ridge off the southeast coast on day 13 and 14 with a deep trough running from North Dakota all the way down into Mexico and Baja California. So the trough is back in the west. What's worse, looking at this, is the fact that the Aleutian Ridge, if you remember back in December, we had the Aleutian Ridge, and then suddenly that's back. Now, before you lose it, everybody, I do want to point out something, at least on today's run. And, fiddling around with the long range after 6 or 7 days is a lot of times, we all know it's a bit of a fool's errand. But I want to bring up, because I looked at this today and I said, oh, well, you know what? Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. I want to bring up the 10 millibar, because I think what you're seeing is here a reflection of what's going on up at the 10 millibar level. And we'll give that a moment to load up. While it's trying to load, Joe, how many likes do we have tonight?
So far, and in recent days, we've had like 75% of the viewership who have allowed for likes. We're running a little behind that here. We have on my screen here 337 watching now, 119 likes.
Okay,
to this moment in time.
We like 100 likes. Thank you very much for those of you who hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome to our YouTube channel, where we do the Joe and Joe every day, 5 days. Well, we do it 5 days a week, and sometimes longer than 5 days a week when conditions warrant. And that's usually Monday through Thursday. Most nights we start at 7:30 tonight, and I think tomorrow night too, 8:30 start. And Sundays we're on at 11 a.m. and usually we don't do a show on Friday or Saturday unless conditions warrant. But what I was getting at with the 10 millibar, Joe, on the looking at the stratosphere, we have this polar vortex that's been stretched out, stretched on one end from Siberia, the other end over Greenland, and this trough that runs down into the eastern United States. So, the flow has been pretty much from the cold areas up well to the north, and all that cold air dropping into the eastern United States. Now, what I did notice was that trough pulls up, as we get deeper into the long range. It starts to pull up a bit as the polar vortex kind of consolidates a little bit over Siberia. And then it starts at the end, it starts to drop back southward again. So maybe what we're seeing on today's long range going out is the fact that when the polar vortex does that pulling up, and you get that ridge that sort of builds there in the Gulf of Alaska up in the stratosphere, that's when perhaps a temporary break in the pattern that we've been in. Because when you think about it, it started at the beginning of January, and if it runs the whole month, that's a fairly long stretch to be in one pattern. Well, maybe it's saying that a short break at the end of the month into the very beginning of February for a couple of days, and then the polar vortex looks like it wants to drop back southward as we move into February. So maybe we get a short break, and then the primary pattern that we've been in this month comes back. Pure speculation on my part. Who knows what this will show tomorrow or the next day, but I'm just kind of, I'm gleaning this from, what I'm looking at today at the moment.
But Joe, things change so fast, so rapidly, almost on a day-to-day basis. So you really are taking a chance by saying, plan A, because 2 or 3 days later.
I'm totally speculating here. I mean, it's a totally open speculation here that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Here's we got the NAM out to 39 hours, so we can take a look at what's going on elsewhere, because we've got. I want to see what it does here down. Here's here's tonight, of course, and then you kind of roll it along. The front settles off the North Carolina coast. So you can see that one wave. This is Friday morning, goes out well east of North Carolina. You start to see the ice developing there in Texas. So obviously it's not out far enough, and you're starting to see ice forming along the Carolinas. So, again, this is where we have our winter storm watches and winter storm warnings up at the moment. And of course, everywhere else, you got this nice, really cold high, 1041 high sitting right over the bottom of the St. Lawrence River, and northeast winds all day Friday into Saturday. I mean, that's a really cold flow for us when we get highs that go to the north like that, and you get that northeast wind. And that cold air, by the way, drains down. I'm not going to get any precip out of this front, by the way. Everything sets up too far south, but that cold air is draining just like that, straight down from eastern Canada all the way down into South Texas.
Now, do I have sharing privileges?
You can. Hang on one moment, please, and I will hit the. It's bothering me tonight that I have this headset. I was really happy that everything works and I cannot hear you. So I know there's a setting in here somewhere that I have to find to fix that up. But anyway, the floor is yours.
Oh, really? Okay. So let me just, I want to show you folks something of interest. This came on the site spaceweather.com, and what you're looking at right now.
Hang on. I just got to change. I got to put you back on the screen. Just a second. Hold on. Here we go. And you're on the air.
Is my shared screen on there?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
So you can see the shared screen.
Yep. And so can everybody else.
What you're looking at, what you're looking at right now, and again, I took this from spaceweather.com. Polar stratospheric clouds, the most beautiful clouds on Earth, just appeared inside of the Arctic Circle. Quote, and this is from Anna Krejvel. I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. It's one of the most intense daytime light shows that I've ever seen, says Anna, of lights over Lapland, who sent this picture from Abisko, Sweden. I've never been to Abisko lately, but anyway, These are polar stratospheric clouds, otherwise known as PSCs, and they are a sign, Joe, of a staggering cold occurring up in the polar regions. PSCs require temperatures of around 85 degrees below 0 Celsius in order to form. So the stratosphere is extremely dry, especially over Sweden, it appears. Only when the air up there becomes extremely cold can widely spaced water molecules coalesce into icy clouds. Sunlight hitting ice crystals inside a PSC create colors that rival even the aurora borealis. And this picture was taken again by Anna Krzevel over of lights overlapped in I guess that's maybe a travel company that takes you to view the northern lights or whatever. But that's from Abisko, Sweden, and you can see here the colors almost iridescent, I guess here. And meanwhile, you have this orange color, which I presume is from sunrises or sunsets. But in any case, according to what I'm reading here on spaceweather.com, in order for these kind of clouds to form, you need temperatures of around 85 degrees below 0 Celsius. That's pretty damn cold.
Oh, that is cold. That is very cold. Too cold for me. Very.
I hope it wasn't too cold when she took the picture.
Yeah. Nice. Those are very impressive. Very impressive. All right. Let's see what there's. Do we have? There's not much else. Oh, you know what? I'm going to bring up my. Let me bring up the snow forecast maps because I really didn't do that yet. So let's do that. And first of all, I'm going to take. All right, we'll go around a few places where they have the winter storm warnings up and the winter weather advisories. I started down in Texas, and most of the ice accretion that's being forecast here through Saturday evening is basically 1/10 of an inch or less. But you see it set up there in South Texas, San Antonio, even up into the Houston area, Corpus Christi, and also in the parishes surrounding New Orleans. I got it right this time. And in the southern Mississippi and even into southwest Alabama, little ice accretion. Then we roll our way up to the southeastern part of the United States, and you can see the ice accretion being forecast here is a bit more on the order of 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch in the areas closer to the coast rather than inland. There's less ice accretion up in places, say, like Raleigh, Durham, or Greensboro, or Charlotte and Greenville, but you head down further south, north and west of Wilmington, southwest of Elizabeth City. You're talking about 1/4 of an inch, even 1/3 of an inch of ice accretion. And as far as the snow totals are concerned, they're not all that much really. We'll give that map a chance to load here, but at least from the standpoint of the New York, our area here, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, most of the snow forecast amounts are in the 2 to 3 inch range in a lot of places. I got a pre-made map that I saved, so I'll bring that up while the other one's loading. But here we go. So there you have at least the snow forecast. A lot of 2s in there. I was reading the general forecast from the offices. It's basically talking about 2 to 3 inches. They got a 3 print there in between Philadelphia and Harrisburg. Again, who knows? Somebody's going to wind up with higher amounts. Some places are going to wind up with lower amounts. That's a certainty. And at least initially, now they're going for some big amounts in southeastern Virginia, northeastern North Carolina of 1/2 foot or more. But then it gets to 4 inches in the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula. With respect to the first system, 2 to 3 inches for the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. Back over in Kentucky, it's mostly 1 inch or 2. In West Virginia, it's 1 inch or 2. Again, these are not really, obviously these are low amounts. And in southern New England and southeastern New England, also in that same band where it's, coating to maybe a few inches in some places.
That looks certainly interesting. I'm looking here at the chat board, and one of our people on the chat board, James Davidson, writes, that he is thinking that a very warm February is on its way with record high temperatures, even much warmer than December was. And that, he says, is his official long range forecast or long range outlook. So we'll see at the end of February how close Mr. Davidson is on all of this. It looks to me, though, Joe, like that the very cold temperatures that we're looking at for the days ahead of us will at least spill over into the very beginning of February. I think most respecting groundhogs on February 2nd are going to be searching for their overcoats and parkas and not their shadows come early Groundhog Day morning, February 2nd.
Well, I will say this from that angle, the CFS model, the climate model, which is also known as can't forecast and then fill in the S word, does have the trough shifting back to the west as we move through the month of February. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have snow events, winter weather events out of it, because even when you get the trough to shift to the west, sometimes you do get these little windows of opportunity that open up. But again, that's what the CFS is doing today. Who knows what it will be doing a few days from now. So, by the way, as the chairman said to me, on this date, January 19th, 1977, do you remember what happened on that particular day?
He sent me the same thing. So
okay, so and
it was a reminder.
Okay, yeah, the snow in Miami. Snow in Miami. Tom Contino says, "Why is burn?" Yeah, I know. I don't know why. Why do you forecast shop? Oh my! I have to say, I got to tell you. I have a bunch of snow removal guys that I work with, and they do this to me all the time. But the funny thing that happened tonight was when I looked at the GFS today, late this afternoon, I have snow removal guys that are in southeastern Pennsylvania and in south central PA, and I sent them the note and I said, look, I'm not forecasting this, but I was kind of looking at, some of the stuff late this afternoon, this evening, and thinking, given where it has snowed this winter, as I said earlier, where it has snowed this winter, if there's going to be a jackpot zone, it may wind up being in southern New Jersey, down in the southeastern PA area and points, south and west. So just as that, I was having that conversation, he pulled up his app that he had. I don't know what weather app he had. And that also reminds me, I got to make this mention. So he pulls up this weather app that he had, and lo and behold, for his location, it was printing 4 and 5 inch amounts, which kind of matched up with what the GFS had put down for parts of Southeast PA and down toward the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. And I said to him, that app is using the GFS. And every 6 hours, you're going to pull that up, and it's going to have a different number. And this is the big problem with these, the huge problem with weather apps with these forecasts, because they are all model based, and as the models change, they change. And how you can use those, to me, if you're going to have something, if you're trying to make a decision based on what the weather's going to be, and every 6 hours you're going to have there's going to be something different. How can you possibly make good decisions out of it? You can't. So it was just kind of funny because I knew right away, as soon as he told me that it pushed up with these 4 or 5 inch amounts, which is what the GFS did in that supposed jackpot zone, that the guy's got an app with the GFS on it. And by the way, speaking of apps, those of you who are on my meteorologist Joe Chaffee weather app, which you can get, and it's free, okay, as in it doesn't cost you anything, on Google Play or on the App Store. The Apple version of that app, I've had some technical issues for the last almost 2 months that I finally was able to fix. And the app went back live today. So if you have the app, it's working and the notifications are working. So you not only don't miss my forecast summaries that I put out, but also all the snowfall. I have every National Weather Service snowfall forecast map from Maine to Georgia, and all the way back west into Western PA, Ohio, and West Virginia, up and down the East Coast. Those update automatically when the Weather Service updates them twice a day. Those maps get updated immediately on the app. So it's free. Just go to Google Play or go on the App Store and just search meteorologist Joe Cioffi, Cioffi. Or I think on Apple, you can just search my name and it will come up. Download it and and enjoy yourself. There's a lot on it. Severe weather stuff on there, local radar, whatever your location is, local radar, satellites, regional radars, you name it, it's all on there. And by the way, tonight's poll, Joe, which city gets the most snow tomorrow? So far, the numbers with 253 votes, we have 24% say Islip, 15%, right? That's 15% say Central Park in New York City, 33% say Philadelphia, and 28% say Washington, D.C. So the forecasters voting tonight are going with the fact that maybe the jackpot zone will be further south of New York City further south as you go south of New York City than further north and northeast. So there you have it. The poll folks have spoken.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the NAM Foos, which just came out a few minutes ago.
This just in.
And it is saying, Joe, that by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning at not Central Park, but at LaGuardia Airport, the thickness is 538. But here, this could be the key for those who are hoping in the immediate New York area for snow. The boundary level temperature at the T1 level is +2. That's not good. Above that, the T3 is at 90. What is it here? All these numbers get jammed together. It's difficult for me sometimes.
I know it's hard to read sometimes.
And the 90 at the T5, it's 97. So the mid and upper layers are certainly cold enough, but it's the bottom layer, the last 1,500 feet, where the temperature, at least as of 7 a.m. at LaGuardia, is just a little bit too warm. So you might end up at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning seeing a lot of big snowflakes, considering how cold it is, at higher levels. But at +2, that may not necessarily, at least at that moment, accumulate. Now, by 1 o'clock, the T1 is down to 98, -2 Celsius. But by that time also, it looks like everything is pretty well done as far as precipitation. They give a grand total on the LaGuardia Foos, Joe, a grand total of 0.27 inches of moisture, but at least half of that, a little more than half of that, comes when the boundary level temperature again is just a tad too warm for the white stuff.
All right, you have Briller Jeopardy tonight.
Oh, by the way, at 60 hours, which is Saturday morning at 7 a.m., for all of you who are still hanging your hopes on getting something in terms of snow, the relative humidity at the lowest level, the R1 level, is 61%. At the mid-level, Joe, the relative humidity, 9%. And at the high level, 5%. So the atmosphere pretty much is going to be bone dry, at least through Saturday morning, and I suspect it'll stay that way through much of the day on Saturday. So if you're hoping for any amazing snowstorm, it doesn't look like it's going to be happening.
All right. Well, we know this. We know this is going to be anything more than what it is. Cold front, right. Little wave, stick of snow, put it down, get it out.
No, but I only say that because I saw on one particular Facebook page, somebody was doing forecasts and saying the models are having a tough time resolving what may happen here on Saturday. And I looked at that and I said,
"Stop
are you
it
kidding
already
me?
With the weekend, just stop. Make them go away. Can you make them go away? They need to go away."
I said, yeah, they're having a tough time trying to resolve the issue. I think they pretty well resolved it. Every single guidance model is saying, you ain't going to get it. Move on.
My God,
All
it's
right.
like they don't give up, do they?
No, they don't. All
They,
right.
they
For this,
just don't stop.
Oh God, I haven't been. I've been down here a year. I haven't been really paying attention. I'm gonna say 48. Hold on. Oh, that's my fault. Sorry. I did something I shouldn't have done. Um. Oh Jesus. I'm sorry, Joe. That was my fault. Hold on a second. You should be okay now. Try again.
the executive, can you hear me?
Uh,
Those of you who can, if you can hear me, just note on the
You
chat
should
board here.
you should be back now. Hang on.
All right.
Give it
Can
about
anybody?
30 questions. Give it about 30 seconds. Uh, Keep talking, Joe.
Hello. 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5. I wish all of you could hear me. Can you? Yes. Now people can hear me. I just want to say I wish all of you could
My
have
fault.
heard when I was. I wish all of you could have heard when I was muted. My dear sweet wife, the executive producer of the show, who was yelling and screaming things that are not really supposed to go over the air. Well, I mean, it wasn't obscenities, but you could have seen, you could have heard some of the anger in her voice. I told you they can't hear you. Can you hear? Oy.
Well, I'm sorry. You're back on now.
Anyway,
I'm trying to I'm trying to fix. I'm frustrated because I can't hear you. I'm supposed to hear you in here, and I'm not hearing you. I bought
yeah.
this.
Well, you
And
got
I
to make.
paid good money for it too. So I'm like
I
really.
know, Joe. I paid good money for these headphones that I'm wearing, and it took the better part of like a week or 10 days for me to finally figure out. And still, there's some things I don't know why I have a couple of buttons here and everything, but it's aggravating. I agree with you.
By the way,
The
do you know what
instructions
brand
that
of
they
headset
give,
you have?
it is what brand? Now, most reputable firms would have the brand name on the headset because they're very proud of the service that they give. No, there's no branding here,
Okay, there's no
but I
brand.
can tell you that
Yeah. When you take your headsets off, it
and
can't
the
hear you. So
well, no. What I'm saying is that if it was a good, reputable firm, they would be proud to put the name on the headset. There's nothing. This is like a generic headset, if you will. But I agree with you because the instructions that came with these headsets that I'm wearing right now stunk. I mean, it's like I don't know. I'm not going to get into this. So let's finish off Brillo Jeopardy because I've
go
been
ahead.
sitting here now. I sat here.
So
I got in position for my library
so
talk at 6:45, and now it's 9:45.
so what was
I'm just mad.
what was the answer to the normal in Atlanta?
54,
54. Okay.
54. How about Baltimore?
Baltimore, I'll say 42.
Good, within one, 43. Boston,
Boston, I'll say 36.
within one once again, 37. How about Bison City, Buffalo, New York?
Oh God. I'll say I'll say 30.
Pretty good, within two, 32. How about Chicago, the
I'll
Windy
say
City?
35.
Within two again, Joe. You're in a zone now. Within two, 33. Now here's one. I would just like to say that Dallas, Texas.
Oh God. For January?
for January. Factor in the Texas Northers too.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure that. I'll say 58.
Ow, my goodness. 58 on the nose, Joe.
Really? Whoa.
You're hot. 2 more left. My goodness. How about, by the way, I'm sorry to tell you that you cannot reach into my pocket for the $500 since you got it on the nose. How about Denver?
Denver. That's a tough one.
And no, Tom
you know,
Contino.
They could be 15 below. They could be 15 below with heavy snow one day and 65 the next.
Exactly.
I'll say, this is a tough one. I'll say 39.
It was 58.
The average high for January in Denver is 58?
No, Dallas.
Oh, Dallas.
Oh, wait a minute. Denver. Oh, no. Yeah, I gave it Dallas. Denver. What did you say for Denver? It's 47. I thought we were working with Dallas. What's Dallas? Right. Okay. Hey, Joe, I'm starting to get punchy here now. How about Jacksonville? $66. 66 WNBC. How about Los Angeles? Not bad, 68. And now finally, your old hometown, your old stomping grounds, New Orleans. Within 4, 63. All right. I'm done. Guess what, Joe? Now they can't hear you. Your battery died. Joe, let's call it a night. Folks, you could hear me. I'm leaving. Good night.